Early retirement is a dream for a lot of people, including myself. I have 6 more years until I'm 50 years old, and we are planning on retiring at that age of 50. This is going to give us the ability to have a ton of free time, and it might not even be full retirement. It might be doing something that I like a little bit more, maybe having a side hustle, maybe doing YouTube, growing the channel at that point, which again, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. We're going to be breaking down the 6 tips as I'm planning to get into retirement within the next 6 years and making sure that we can bridge the gap. Now, the most important thing to remember if you're looking at early retirement, and for me, I am looking at just a regular retirement age of 62, which I know some people retire at 65, 67, but 62 is really the minimum that I'm looking at because that is going to essentially bridge that gap to Social Security. Now, of course, from age 50 to 59 and a half, we cannot touch any of that 401k money, any of that IRA money without paying a penalty, which we do really want to keep from paying that penalty, meaning I hypothetically have about a 10-year bridge that we need to get to the point of being able to use those retirement expenses, which is the reason why I am following and first of all, diligently tracking the expenses. Now, in this 6-year time frame that we have hitting that age of 50, we want to try to, one, bulk up as much money as we can, but two, eliminate all expenses that we can. Now, of course, there's going to be some wants, there's going to be some needs when it comes to, the lights, the gas, when it comes to the internet, when it comes to some of those expenses, they are going to be fixed. But a majority of the big expenses at age of 50, so having the cars paid off, having all of the debt paid off, no high interest debt, having the mortgage paid off, having everything in its entirety, which are kind of the bigger bills, completely paid off at that point. And of course, to do this, we are diligently tracking our expenses. Now, on a monthly basis, we are sitting down, we're reviewing exactly where we can cut, making sure and seeing exactly how much money we're going to have to bridge that 10-year gap, hitting up to essentially the age of 60, where we can start taking money out of some of the 401ks that we have. And then, of course, at 62, supplementing that with Social Security while we continue to take a little bit out of the investment accounts. And of course, with this, you have to stay away from lifestyle creep. This is something that my wife and I do not partake in at all. And honestly, it is probably a game changer. Reading financial books, but looking at blogs, making sure that we're avoiding this lifestyle creep. We're not keeping up with the Joneses. Even our vehicles, we buy them used. We pay them off usually within about a year with the income we currently have. Now, of course, as our neighbors are getting new cars, they're upgrading, they're doing advancements, they're moving to richer neighborhoods. We are just staying with exactly what we have because, of course, we have about another 2 to 3 years before the home is paid off. And then we are 100% Dave Ramsey style debt-free in our entirety. So that means if we pay it off in 2 to 3 years, it's going to give us another 3 to 4 years that we can just literally stockpile investment accounts with everything that we have in our income until we do make the tradition or the transition of switching into that retirement life and finding something that we love to do. Could be travel, could be, again, kind of a side income, could be a bunch of different things that we love to do. And of course, number 3, we look at diversifying our income streams. Now, I do have a gaming channel. We do have the finance channel here that you're watching, but overall, making sure that we're looking at a ton of different income streams. So what we mean by this, looking at the 401k, we're putting money into it. Great. 401k, we're putting in our 15%. My wife's actually putting in 20 or 23% to cap out that 401k. We're putting money into our HSA while we're eligible. If we can cap out and max that HSA for that next 6 years, that is going to give us what, 7,000 a year, $3,000, $21,000 in HSA, which is pretty good, kind of trying to bridge that health insurance gap that we're going to have. And then, of course, putting it into brokerage accounts, putting it into Roth accounts, putting it into anything that we can to save, including those high yield savings accounts to have a ton of investments. Now we get some dividends, we get some dividends, we get some interest income, we get a couple different things, have a lot of stocks and bonds that we do hold. And again, creating these multiple income streams are going to make a real big difference. Again, bridging that 50 to 60 till we can actually have access to those penalty free, definitely making a big difference. Now, making a shift from the wealth accumulation, which is what we're doing in these next 6 years, to the expense management. When it comes to having your money and honestly building wealth, when we're looking at having more than $500,000 in 401k plans, with the growth factor that we have in there, this is going to be the point of the expense management. It's going to be a very solid retirement plan. But again, knowing exactly where our plans are at if you're retiring with and putting out a lot of money on the monthly basis, this goes for anyone that is even planning early retirement, but it also goes for anyone who is planning for regular retirement. Again, the 62, the 65, the 67 years of age, because if you're going from a regular traditional job into a retirement income, if you have a pension, if you have Social Security, if you have a lot of expenses, you are going to find very quickly that you don't have any money. I see people who are going into retirement with a ton of credit card debt, they have auto loan debt, they have mortgages, and all of a sudden they get into retirement and they have no money at all. And now they've eliminated their absolute biggest thing, which of course was their income when they were working. Trying to go into retirement with a bunch of debt really doesn't work. And the other mistake I see with a lot of people is they will sacrifice a big chunk of their retirement plan to just pay off the debt they have, consolidating it all together, paying it off in one big lump sum. I've seen people take 30 to 50% of their total retirement package, the total retirement that they have in their 401k, just to pay off the debt. But what I find always does happen is they start accumulating new debt because even though they consolidated or they paid it off, they don't have the things in place to keep from accumulating new debt, which really does make a difference. Now, of course, when it goes into retirement, letting go of what really doesn't matter. This is going to be the big house that, of course, at that point, within the next couple of years, my kids will be out of the house, possibly looking at going to college, things of that nature, high school, college, looking at downsizing, going to a condo. And again, all of the money for a sale of a house can be banked into, an investment account to actually grow, getting rid of a lot of things and getting rid of things that really don't find value to really downsize. And it is more about the time and the meaning and the life experiences at that point than it is about having all of those possessions. And the final one that I'm really considered and concerned about is healthcare. Affordable healthcare is the key because, of course, if you don't, and if you're not gainfully employed, if you have side hustles, and I know a lot of people do that, where YouTube might be a primary source of income or might be the only source of income, that means healthcare has to come from somewhere. It might be, some of the affordable Act Care plans, some of the cheapest plans, looking at Cobra, looking at a bunch of different things, and making sure, again, that we build up that HSA account. So if there are just regular doctor visits, if there's anything like that, or even with that HSA account, we can pay for the healthcare. So almost at that point with the HSA account, you're kind of prepaying for the healthcare that you're going to use to really bridge the gap up into the point where you can start getting the government provided healthcare in the United States. Going to make it seem pretty interesting. But again, that is a gap that we're going to have to come to. So still retiring at 50 can be achievable with really a lot of discipline, a lot of planning, getting rid and paying down of those expenses, and overall making sure, and I mean dollar wise, some places I see $1 million, $1.25 million that they should have in a retirement plan before you plan to retire. Some places are saying 3 million, some say 4 to 5. It's kind of crazy and all over the board. But I think the big thing with this is how you're managing your expenses and knowing exactly what the cost is kind of on a month-to-month basis. And if you can do it, I definitely advise it. Again, we have a few more years till we're down that path. So definitely stay tuned to the channel. Subscribe if you have not, because we're going to be following and tracking this journey. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.